Learn how to string multiple asynchronous tasks together in a clean sequential order by returning promises from .then. In this demo, we are going to see how three separate functions run in their strict sequence, and then see how the result of a previous step can be added to the current step and pass it forward until a final text is displayed like this one on the screen. So let's go ahead and look at the code together. Here is my boilerplate code for the example that we are going to be looking at together in this lesson. And this example is going to teach us a very important concept in application development. Now, when you have tasks that must happen one after another, like maybe logging in, fetching a profile and loading that image profile, you can chain them together using promises. Now, by returning a new promise inside a .then block, you add the results to the next down the line, and it's like a relay race where each runners just pass a baton to the next person. So that kind of example is what we want to simulate here. But this time around, it's just going to be a succession of returning a simple string text, so that we'll see how we can use promises to chain commands and then return results at the end of the day. So let's dive in. The first instruction in this commented out part is add a function called myDisplayer. So I'll go ahead and make the function. And don't forget that the purpose of this displayer function is that this is going to be responsible for giving us the outputs of our code at the end of the day. So it's documents. Now create step with promises. So we need to create step with promises in JavaScript. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I want to create a step 1 function. And inside that function, I want to return a promise dot resolve. That is, I want to move away from a pending state to a fulfilled state. That is the purpose of resolve. And then I'll just pass in a simple string, letter A like this. So now that I have this function, I'll go ahead and make another one. You can see that in the instruction it says create steps with promise. So I will make step 2. And then this time around, I want to pass a data or a parameter inside the step 2 function. And also I will return promise.resolve. And then I will add the value plus another string letter, which is B. Then I'll go ahead and make the final step, which is step 3. Also, this will accept value because I want it to take the value of the previous one and add it to the current one. Then this also will return promise dot resolve, and then the value of it plus C. Now, if you look at what I have here, I have 3 functions, one for step 1, one for step 2, and the other one for step 3. Now, this first function, this first step here, it will run and immediately it will return a fulfilled promise since we are using promise.resolve. So it's no longer a pending state, and so it will return A. So once it returns that, then it will answer, and then it will move to B, add the value of the previous one, and down like that, down the chain. So now that we have these 3 functions, then we need a way to call the functions to run. And how do you call functions? Just by calling the name, then you can call this function. Sorry, step 2. No, step 1 is the first function, not step 2, sorry. Now, with step 1 now, I can then chain them using this the .then method. And inside it, function value, and I simply would return step 2 and value. That is, anything that is gotten from step 1 should be added to step 2. So now that I have step 1, then I can go again and add dot then function and value. Now I've added step 3, as you can see, and finally I'm going to add another one which is going to be responsible for the displaying of our results on the screen, called my displayer. And right here you can see there's already an error in this code, so I need to trace it. Step 1 dot then this bracket and this, okay. For this dot then function value, open and return step 2. If I take this out, let me do it again. Okay, I think this should work correctly now. Step 3 and value. And now you can see ABC on the screen. So what just happened? Well, when this function starts running, step 1, which is what we have here, it outputs A, then it passes this to this part, which is step 2, and this also passes this to the last step, which is step 3, and then my displayer function then display ABC, as you can see. Now, connecting multiple .then method vertically, you see that the output of one becomes the input for the next. So this returns A, it passed on to this return B, it passed on to this. So one thing to notice is that, to take note rather, is that if you forget this return inside this promise, then the link in that chain would, it won't wait for it, and instead it will show undefined. What I'm basically saying is that you see this part, promise.resolve value.c, promise.resolve value plus b, promise.resolve. So if you forget all these returns, they are very important. You can see that the output has disappeared away from the code. I hope you can see what I'm talking about. Now I will revert it back. Now in this part too, if I remove return, let's see what happens. You can see undefined is what I am getting. That is, that particular step value will not be returned, and you can see that this is showing undefined C because in this part it's to return. If I remove it here too, then automatically everything will become undefined. So look at how clean this code looks. You can see instead of nesting function inside functions, which leads to messy code, you just line up dot then blocks right under each other. And now notice how the value in the second dot then is actually the result of step 2. So the data continues to flow downward, transforming at every stop along the way. So this gives us a better clean code. So if we have more functions, for example, let's say we have step 4, it's just so easy to add it, whatever it is that we want to do. Just go ahead and say value this way, value plus d, and once I come here, dot then function value return step 4, and you can see. So this gives us a very clean code, and it makes it easy for us to avoid the messy code of nesting function inside function.